Hello, this is Jerry from Colorado Rocks, and I just finished with my guitar project here for a friend, and I'm going to walk through everything that we did to get this Mexican Stratocaster fixed up and ready to rock and roll. So first thing, starting with the case, this is one of those legacy remnant cases, and it looks like there's stitching here, but on the one side it was starting to peel off, so I just used goop glue and some masking tape to hold it down and glued that back together. Some of these other ones might need some glue in the future, but for now it's good. Starting at the headstock, adjusted the tuner tension. So some of them were looser than others, so to make sure that little screw on the end, made sure all the tuners had. You don't want them too tight, you don't want them too loose, but definitely snug. There's actually a compression washer in there, which is like a bent washer, and you don't want to tighten it all the way down, but you definitely want that pressure on there. Restrung it. Put the strings in, tried to wind the E string as much down as possible, but it was still popping out of the nut, so I did have to use the string tree. And it does seem to work even with the huge dive bombs on the trem system. It comes right back up to pitch. That's because we polished the inside of the nut with a piece of thread and some car polish. So basically just car buffing polish. You don't want rubbing compound, at least not finally. You might want to start with that, but you want the polish to get it really smooth. Did some fret leveling and filing, and then polished the frets with that same rubbing compound as well. The neck, the screws on the back of the neck were not tightened, so they weren't totally loose, but they weren't totally tight, so tightened that down. Adjusted the truss rod in the neck with just a slight forward bow, which is what you want. So if you lay a straight edge on this at the 7th fret, you'll have between 7 thousandths and 10 thousandths. I actually did 10 thousandths and wound up backing it off a little bit. And really the test for that is if you're buzzing, you're not buzzing up here at the high frets, but you're buzzing down here, that means you have too much back bow or your truss rod is too tight. If your strings are too high and or you're buzzing up here but not down here, it means the truss rod is too loose and you have too much forward bow. So basically there's a balancing act between the truss rod pulling the neck back and the strings pulling the neck forward. These rock maple necks are pretty stable, so they don't walk much. It's a really solid design that good old Mr. Leo Fender did, and I don't think it's changed much since then. Moving on, we put a new pickup in this, and I just wired it as pretty much a direct replacement of the single coil. Did get a new pick guard because I didn't feel like cutting out the single coil pickup to make it a double coil. Plus it looks a little cleaner. You don't have the extra holes. And these standard HSS pick guards are about 10, 12 bucks. I did a custom one for my Squire Strat, and that was pretty pricey. I think it was like 40 or 50 bucks to get that made, but I was able to put the volume controls and everything right where I wanted it. So this is pretty much standard wiring, just swapping out the pickups. I know there's different wirings and other things we could do. I thought we'd give this a try first. Seems to be working really good. Did have to adjust the pickup heights down to get a little more volume out of these. So the humbucker's down a little lower, and I think it's a 4 Henry or a 6 Henry humbucker. So, and that's actually a Bill Lawrence humbucker. I am getting some microphonics out of it. I'm going to give Becky or Shannon Lawrence a call on that. So basically when you tap on this pickup, you're hearing some sound, especially if you got distortion on and it's really cranked up. I'm not hearing that in my other Bill Lawrence pickups. This is not a Bill Lawrence USA pickup. I do not care for the tone of Bill Lawrence USA pickups. I bought 2 of them by mistake once. This is the official Bill Lawrence pickup that he lost the name of the company, so he can't call it Bill Lawrence anymore. And Bill unfortunately passed away a while back, but his daughter and wife are still making these pickups. So great people, and it's great for them to carry on a legacy, but I think they might have forgot to wax pot this one, so need to give them a call on that. Moving on, the jack, the output jack here was loose, just tighten down that bolt. A socket works really great for tightening those down, if not a flat end plier, so put that apart, but you really almost need a socket for this one. So tighten that down. I had to take these screws out to take that off. Okay, moving on to the bridge. This is where probably most of the work was done. So originally, these pieces for the height adjustment, especially on like the lower strings, like the A and the E, was very high, and it was really almost coming out. So if you screw these in to get a good action and high enough action, your pull pieces are almost all the way in on the bottom. And so I moved the bridge up. It was resting on the body. Now it's still resting on the back. So it is a blocked tail stop. I thought I was going to have to put a stop in it, but it worked out perfectly. So that worked well. Set the bridge height. So set the bridge height first, then did the individual string, which is kind of a pain on a Floyd. You get them to match the contour, and you don't have to do each one independently. Then after those are all set and your height is set, adjusted the intonation, and I got a video on that. Also put the little spring in the trem system, so the trem knob, if you tighten it down enough, doesn't bounce around. So you can see it stays in any place really well, and that's because of those little springs in these. And that is it. So this guitar is ready to rock, and my bandmate is going to be using this when we play at Satire Brewery on the 16th. Hope to see you there. Thanks. Bye.